He was called Preacher. No one knew his real name. Sometimes even he had difficulty remembering it. He had left his home in the settled East as a boy and had never been back. He'd been to St. Louis several times, but that was as far east as he'd chosen to go. His preferred home was the mountain wilderness, the high lonesome, the big empty. He was called Preacher because he had, years back, been taken captive by a warring tribe, and when he saw they were about to torture him to death, he started preaching. He preached all day and all that night. The Indians finally concluded he was crazy and let him go. He'd been preacher ever since, and he was known from the far north of Canada down to the deserts of the Southwest, from the Mississippi to the Pacific. He was also known as one hell of a bad man to tangle with. Preacher was not a big man, more of average height for his time, but he possessed great upper body strength. He was lean-hipped and wang leather tough. He was handsome in a rugged sort of way. He was of the breed called mountain man. Those men roamed the western wilderness for a few decades, then vanished into history. When the fur trade played out, most drifted on into obscurity. A few did not. Preacher was one who did not. Preacher saw the writing on the wall about furring and gave it up long before many of his friends did. He wasn't worried about making a living. If he never saw another gold coin again, he would survive. He could do everything there was to do in the wilderness, and had done most of it. He could pan for gold. Preacher always kept a small sack of gold for hard times, scout for the army, or lead a wagon train through. He could catch wild horses and break them. He preferred to gentle break them, and he even knew how to farm. But that was at the bottom of his list of things to do.